Hello, everyone. I'm Courtney Kaiser. I am a spiritual life coach and former licensed professional therapist or counselor here in Austin, Texas. I am a fellow witch and high priestess of the Magdalena Rose Path, and I am here to talk about shadows today. As I've promised, a full length about shadows. I've posted a few things on my TikTok and on my Instagram. My Instagram you can follow at Mystic Journey ATX. I have two pretty lengthy shadow work videos on there, but I wanted to give you guys at YouTube a longer, more in-depth video of what exactly shadow work entails, what they are, how to identify them, and how to work with them, and specifically how I choose to work with them. So, shadows. They are called shadows. From Carl Jung, he identified the term shadows, and it's parts of ourselves that have experienced trauma, major life transitions, very impactful experiences, developmentally, but also just, big events that have happened in our life, hidden in our subconscious. But that doesn't just cover everything, though. It also includes things that our parents experienced, things that have been passed down to us through the generations, through generational trauma, but also ancestral trauma, things that we may not even be fully aware of or know about until we dig a little deeper, and through certain spiritual practices we might uncover, and also, spiritual resources like readings and such to figure out what these hidden elements affecting us that are downloaded and coded in our DNA that show up in certain times of our life where we're meeting this pinnacle where past generations or our ancestors might have dealt with the same thing, experiencing a lot of trauma and pushback, creating certain beliefs and narratives about who they are and what they're capable of that show up in these situations when we're met with a similar experience or situation. So the shadows, again, they're hidden in the subconscious mind out of our conscious awareness. And if we look at studies today, they've discovered that 95% of our waking mind is subconscious. So only 5% conscious awareness at all times, which is mind-blowing. We think we're really conscious and aware all the time. We're not. Think about chewing, eating, talking, driving, walking, doing laundry, watching TV, using a remote, typing, all of these things that we do that have been programmed in that, term of, it's like riding a bike. You never forget because that was once programmed in, and once we get it, it then functions through the subconscious. We don't have to consciously think about it. We already know how to do it. And so the same thing applies when it comes to certain trauma or experiences that show up through the shadows. We may not fully have access to these things, or parts of ourselves, I should say, all the time, because we're not met with certain challenges or obstacles or experiences that would bring up this certain part of us. And what I mean by parts is through the shadow work, that through all of my experiences in trainings as a therapist, doing parts work, and utilizing Jungian therapy, I discovered through a certain type of meditation, a guided meditation, that we can identify and meet with different parts of ourselves depending on what type of personality and emotional experiences are arising in specific situations. We can meet with them and talk with them and hear their sides, hear directly from them what they're needing to heal, what they need your help with, how they want you to show up. And then we can come to an agreement to come up with the best way to help them heal. In turn, they agree to no longer reactively respond or to try and get your attention, because that's what it is, right? For example, say you're wanting to quit your career, you have a really steady 9-to-5 job, you're fucking miserable, you hate it. But all the generations before, all the schools, all of your other friends that are in financially stable, successful jobs tell you, you don't need to quit that. You're paying your bills. That's number one. Look at your house. Look at how successful you are. Look at your bank statements. Why would you leave? Okay. Well, we're moving into this more conscious, free space of thinking, of connecting with self in a real way. And we're seeing that this facade of what happiness is or what fulfillment or success is, it doesn't always match up with what we genuinely feel is true. Because these jobs were not made for us to live in our fulfillment, empowerment, our truth, right? It's made to pay the government, pay our mortgages, all of this made up shit in the world that creates this disempowerment within us, keeps us sheeple, right? I'm sure a lot of you have heard this term. But when we really start healing ourselves and start seeing the value and looking at our joy, looking at our even gratitude that we experience, our emotional state on a daily basis, our relationships, and we start to see these don't line up. It's affecting my ability to be happy. It's affecting my pride, in who I am, my passion. I don't have any passion. I don't have any drive. I don't have any motivation. I'm not excited every day. I want to be excited, right? But then when we really look at, okay, I'm going to do this new thing. And when it really comes down to it, all of these stories start coming up. Sorry for the squeaking. My chair is very squeaky. I will be in a less squeaky chair next time. It's like, sorry. But all of these stories start coming up. I'm not going to succeed. I'm going to fail, right? Because of all of these stories of you need to do this kind of job. You need to make this kind of money. You need to do it this way. All these preset ideas of what we're supposed to do start showing up. And especially if you're a woman, that's where some of the generational and ancestral trauma will come up, of these narratives of nobody's going to believe me. Nobody cares. I'm not going to be supported. All of these men are going to reign over me and what I can do. They're going to block me from my access to success. There's so many other people out there. It starts to go into this comparison game of, but I can never be like them. I can never do that. I want to be like this person. I can never be like that. I don't look like that. I don't make that kind of stuff. I'm not as creative. All of these just narratives that start to pull you down and bring you into this place of overwhelm, self-doubt, maybe even what feels like depression, and getting stuck, right? and needing to see that's a shadow. All of that is a shadow of a wounded inner child, wounded inner parts of us. And inner child and parts work or shadow work, all of them are the same thing, right? We have all of these names and titles for things, but they virtually are all the same thing, right? But the inner child's talking about one thing, but the inner child could be many different ages, right? And that's when it becomes parts work. And then all of that trauma that's hidden, that's responding on behalf of you in this conscious world, is a shadow, right? And so needing to go in and see, when did I first feel or be told, or what situation happened that made me not believe in myself, that made me think I couldn't do it, that made me think I wasn't enough, that made me think I can only fail if I'm true to myself. Maybe you were bullied, maybe you were called a freak and that you were stupid or you weren't cool enough. All of that's going to play an impact on you embodying your true self, embodying your true wishes, your desires, your passions, because that same story is going to be living there. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. I'm a loser. Nobody's going to care. I'm an outcast. How am I going to get followers? All these blocks start showing up, right? And essentially, when people come in to work with me for shadow work, which I am taking new clients, it's because they're experiencing blocks, right? Whether it's career, whether it's relationships, that's probably the most sought after work is within their relationships, whether it's friendships or romantic relationships or even parental family relationships. They're seeing all of this emotional dysregulation, conflict, inability to express oneself or be understood, feeling unsupported, feeling afraid, feeling hurt in a space of pain, and feeling totally lost, right? And a lot of that has to do with how we were raised, the environment we were raised in, whether it was through our caregivers or our friends, or whether it's generational or ancestral. All of those things kind of play a part in all of it, because our ancestors were treated one way and that created a pattern, right? Nobody was going to therapy, nobody was healing themselves, and that trauma lives on and was passed down through their DNA, through their family after them, right? That same treatment ended up to their children, whether it was traumatic or not. Our grandparents didn't heal themselves. They did the same treatment to their children. Our parents did the same treatment to us unknowingly, right? All of this is unknowingly. This is not a space where we create blame and accusations towards parents, grandparents, but this is a place of understanding where it comes from, creating a new narrative, a new understanding of what it is that we experienced in a way that we can digest it, make sense of it, and recreate and mold this new empowered perspective of what we went through, why we went through it, and how we are not the victim in it, but we are the kings and queens, the goddesses and the gods. We are, and not to say we are gods, but literally we are these powerful manifestors with the ability to shape shift and mold and create our life, our surroundings, how we experience it, how we see it, how we live it, how we digest it, right? And that's not to say that we don't validate our trauma, our feelings about it. Those we validate. It is very real. It is very true, right? And shifting out of this place of either denial and victimhood, that we're powerless, that there's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is. Maybe there's some truth in that it is what it is, but what are we going to do about it? And I think that's an important, valuable method and question to inquire with everything that happens and every experience that you have in terms of shadow work and discovering your shadows, your trauma, right? What am I going to do about it? And there's a process to shadow work, right? Not only is it uncovering and discovering what trauma is there or what shadows are there, but allowing yourself to feel it. Sometimes it's there because we never really allowed ourselves to feel it. Maybe we grew up in a family or environment that did not give you safe support, acknowledgement of what you went through and your feelings and emotions toward how these situations made you feel or their part in it, in needing to hear what you needed to hear all along, right? We need to feel safe, loved, cared about, needed, wanted, appreciated, understood, connected. And a lot of our generation is waking up to this right now. And shadow work's becoming a thing, even though Carl Jung, came out with this a long time ago, but everybody wasn't going to therapy then, right? It was still like, oh, you're going to go visit your shrink, in our parents' generation, just like some of my parents' friends still call me a shrink. And I'm like, I can see where you are, right? In your perspective of what healing yourself is, right? But our generation, we're like, I've fucking had enough, right? And I'm in my mid-30s. I've had enough of this experience or feeling invalidated or needing to understand why I'm feeling this way in this situation. I want to break this cycle, whether anybody else from my caregiving environment takes accountability, responsibility, and takes action towards healing themselves. That's not my motive. That's not the purpose. I'm doing it for me, right? The cycle ends with me. I will not continue it on. And when I heal myself, my living family ends up healing as well. My deceased loved ones end up healing as well. And that energy and vibration spreads through my friends, the world. And I know that might be hard to put your head around, how that could be. And I think it's important to understand the impact that healing ourselves has on the rest of our environment. So I'm going to break that down for you. When you choose to heal yourself, right? We as human beings are made up of energy, right? And some people may not believe in energy, but it's science. It is literal science that we are oscillating atoms in a three-dimensional shape, right? We are molecules. We are made of literal energy, positive, negative atoms, right? We're atoms. That is energy, okay? And when things are out of balance or congregated in a certain area of our body, it's related to certain traumas that we've had of stored energy, right? And this is where, it can get very semantic of positive and negative, right? I try to not see things as good or bad, but in terms of energy, we can look at it from like a positive and negative atomic structure, right? Ions. Some things might make us feel bright and happy. Maybe we consider that positive, right? Not good or bad, but positive ion. We've experienced grief and trauma. We might consider that a negative ion, right? And these things will congregate at certain chakras where we hold certain energies, right? Experiences, emotional trauma, serious trauma is held in the stomach. Those that have experienced a lot of trauma and a lot of grief and have not processed it are going to have a lot more stomach issues, gastrointestinal things, reproductive issues, especially if we hold in our emotions and don't really speak our truth a lot. We hold back our authenticity of who we really are. Our solar plexus is not only who we show up in this world, it's our truth, it's our power, right? So if we feel powerless and in this place of victimhood, or we're holding on to all of this pain, which is keeping us from really accessing our truest self, that area is going to be affected, right? If we are somebody who's experienced a lot of psychological trauma, or are in this place of denial, of not seeing the truth, not seeing how all of this could really be real or affect us, we might experience more closed off third eye chakra. We might have more headaches, eye problems, hearing problems, and just trauma in our head in general, right? We also might have intuitive gifts that we've been blocking out, and that also creates anxiety, right? But all of this is going to affect our transmission and energetic and vibrational output that we're emitting at all times into our environment. And so there are people that you just meet out in public, right? A total stranger or even a friend, and you can feel their energy. You may not fully say it and acknowledge like, oh, this person's energy is off, I don't like it, right? But you might be like, I don't like their vibe, they're giving me weird vibes, right? You feel their energy, right? And whether people have told you or not, when you're in a darker place, people feel your energy. Or they might know to be like, are you okay? And you can put on this face like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm great, nothing's wrong. But they see it, they feel it. It's just a matter of you feeling it, right? And so as you begin to heal yourself, your vibration will change into these more positive ions, right? Starting to release some of these negative ions and becoming more balanced, right? And people are going to feel that, especially if a lot of your trauma happened in your caregiving environment, and you are still meeting with and connected to your family, and whether you've been doing this work on yourself publicly and openly, and whether your family has done their own work or not, they're going to see you utilizing your skills, you staying more grounded, you not responding and reacting in the way that you usually would. You're getting triggered less. right? You seem more calm, more confident, happier even, more true to yourself unapologetically, fearless almost. And success in the terms of knowing who you are and going after what you want, asking for what you want, setting boundaries, protecting yourself and your well-being and your mental health and experiences. You don't put up with shit, but you don't handle it in an aggressive way that is harmful, hurtful. All you're doing is just standing up for yourself. And so that is going to show your family or your environment, you can't fuck with me anymore, right? But you were also this well-spoken, not well thought, but you've put a lot of thought into how you feel and understanding the way you speak and communicate about your perspectives or your experiences or even what you're interested in changes, right? You become a more well-rounded individual. And that becomes inspiring for other people, whether they want to go on the same journey of healing themselves or they just are so proud of you, right? For some, it might be threatening because they enjoy walking all over you and now they can't, their fun is gone, right? But those people are going to learn real quick that, sorry, if that's what you want to do, you can't be in my life, right? We start to really protect and honor ourself and our dignity. That's going to play an effect, right? And then that will also in turn, go to your friends, right? If you have certain friends that it's been a toxic cycle, they're going to learn really quickly, oh, I can't do this anymore. Oh, she blocked me. Oh, she's setting a boundary. I don't like that, right? And you might lose those friends, and that's okay, because if they don't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. They're not empathetic and understand enough. They don't have boundaries or respect for themselves, right? Boundaries equal respect. And then when it comes to the spiritual aspect of it, I am connected with spirit. And so I get to meet with them firsthand, and my ancestors tell me what they would like me to do. And they always say, please heal yourself, break the chain. The more you do what you want to do and not listen to anybody else, you're freeing us. You're releasing us from this chain, this ball and chain of this toxic cycle or narrative of disempowerment that we've been in for so long. We get to live through you, enjoy it through you, which is, oh my God, the fact that that can happen, like, wow, right? It's mind-blowing. And I've had it validated through readings of the same thing. They say the same thing every time. That's all our ancestors want for us, is to follow our truth, our purpose. Everything we want, we deserve, we can get, we can manifest, right? We have all this access in the world with technology and different platforms. Even in a recession, we can, and high markets, right? We can still reach the success the more we lean into our truth, the more we heal and divulge all that we don't need anymore and rewriting everything, right? And shadow work, right? I'm kind of jumping around to all things, so I appreciate it if you've followed along and this makes sense for you. Goddess bless you. Shadow work, right? It's all of these things, right? And so with the shadows, we could have anywhere from like 8 to 12 shadows, right? Living within us at all times, right? For example, in a relationship, how a shadow might show up, you know, at the beginning of my partnership, my shadows were showing up a hell of a lot. I hadn't been in a relationship in over a year, in a serious one, and even longer than that. And so I hadn't been met with these shadows. They tend to not really come out unless it's about career, but until we're in a romantic relationship, that's when our shit really comes out, right? And in friendships. But I had even, you know, said goodbye to a lot of my friends at that point. And so I hadn't worked through or really worked on a lot of these things because I didn't know they were still there. And my partner, who's now my wife, would go and hang out with her friends, and sometimes I was invited, but it was never like intentional, like you can't come. It was like she was just spending time with her best friends, and I would get so upset. Like my feelings, I would have this pit in my stomach, I would be crying. The healing work that I have done, thank God, I was able to keep myself from lashing out to the point where, you know, I wasn't cussing her out or anything. I wasn't calling her names or anything like that. I had an emotionally intelligent response. This is really upsetting to me and I need to do some shadow work and look at why, because it's like visceral. That's how I know it's a shadow. And I did some automatic writing, which is, if you haven't heard of that before, it's something that people who are connected to spirit can just ask the spirit to write through them to them whatever they need to know, and they just allow spirit to take their hand and write. And I've done that with spirit before, and it's really helpful. It works really well. And so I figured I'm going to try to do it with my shadow. And I learned a lot. You know, my shadow brought up trauma that I had from starting in kindergarten, where my friends would hang out behind my back and then talk about it in front of me. I wasn't invited on purpose. And then they would talk about it to hurt my feelings. And this went on. I had a bunch of asshole friends growing up. I mean, kids can be assholes to each other. Thankfully, it wasn't like that for a long time, but it made me turn into somebody that I had to work through and release as I became a therapist. This stone cold, not connecting, hard person that would hurt other people so I wouldn't get hurt first, right? It was this very deeply rooted shadow. And I thought I had worked through all of that, but turns out I hadn't. And so what my shadow asked me to do was remind her that I am loved, I am important, I am wanted, I am needed. She's not them. She's not doing this to me to hurt me. There's no malicious plan. None of that is true, and I'm sorry that you're hurting still. I'm sorry that happened to you. But we don't have to hurt anymore. We don't have to worry about that anymore. And I just held her. I held myself. And I cried and I wept. And after I went through all of that and felt it and acknowledged it and comforted her, she started coming up less and less. Actually, she didn't really come up that maybe once or twice after that, but it was very minimal, and I knew exactly what to say to her then and just reaffirmed revalidated everything and let her cry if she needed to cry. But when our shadows come out like that, when we're feeling this visceral, emotional reaction, sometimes it is reactive and out of place, overboard almost for what experience is happening. It is never usually about the actual person that we think we're upset with or mad at, or the situation that we are currently in. It is something from a long time ago that you probably haven't thought about in 20 years or something. You know, when I do this work with my clients and they're telling me about a situation, I remember one client was like, I don't know where it comes from. We did some shadow work and like, oh wait, you know what? I remember this one time when I was 3 and they could identify what happened and seeing it as clear as day and how it made them feel and how they could see themselves relating and experiencing and changing how they respond to that stimuli until their adulthood from that day forward. Right? And so essentially our shadows are coming out without us knowing that they're shadows. We just think we're being ridiculous, right? We ignore it, or like, I'm fucking crazy. I'm overreacting. I'm so sorry. We go into this place of guilt and shame. We might even self-loathe. We devalue ourselves. We become a victim because we feel fucking lost. I don't know how this happened. I don't know why I'm responding like this. I don't know where it's coming from. We feel fucking crazy. But you're not crazy. It's a shadow, right? And so all this is meant to do is help us become consciously aware of, like, if it seems off the board, like, whoa, I am rocked to my core in this experience, know it's a shadow. You know it's a shadow. And this is where we can take accountability, not being a victim, being an empowered, strong person that is empathetic with self, but also thinking about the other person we are communicating with and to say, I don't know what this is about, but I am feeling fucked up right now. I'm very upset. I can't speak to you right now. I need to go do some shadow work. I need to look at this. I don't even think I'm mad at you, but it feels like I'm mad at you. The situation could very well be shitty, absolutely. And being upset at things is okay. But when it's huge, there's another situation similar to it. And so we know if we are just totally rocked, it's not this current situation. And being able to then come back, right, and being like, yeah, I can't talk to you. I got to work through this. I got to look at this. I got to heal myself, taking responsibility, doing that work, discovering what it is before you blow up a relationship, before you get in a toxic fight with someone you care about, creating a break in your relationship or fracture. Step away with the intention of returning once you have looked at it and figured out what it is and started to heal yourself, knowing that you don't need them to fix it for you. You don't need them to figure it out for you or make you feel better, because it's not about them and it's not their responsibility. It's yours. So then you do shadow work, and I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about what kinds of things you can do. I've already listed a few. And then you come back and you say, I appreciate you giving me space to figure this out. I did not want anything to go down or anything to be said that I didn't mean because I was feeling intensely emotional with what happened or what was said. I am still slightly upset with how you handled this. I don't like the way it made me feel, but I uncovered that I'm not really mad at you. I'm mad at this person from 5th grade. I'm mad at this person from 5th grade that made me feel this way, and it reminded me of it when I really looked at it. And that part of me is still really hurting. So I need you to know that this is something that I'm working through. And if it comes up, I'll let you know. But I am taking responsibility to heal this for myself. But I need you to know that that's something that I went through and to be more conscious of it. Do you know how much or how many more attuned, healthy relationships we would all have if that's how it went every time? Wow. Right? It's like, and especially if someone, you're on the other end of that and seeing that all happen, you're like, you don't even know what to do with that, because most likely that's never been modeled for you before, and you might have never experienced that before, right? Unless you might have dated a therapist or something, or someone who does a lot of spiritual work. But even then, like, we're all not perfect. It's not going to happen perfect every time, but imagine what our relationships would be like. It would be so respectful and lovable and safe and connected, autonomous and supported all at the same time. Yeah. So just, thinking about if that is a goal that you want. I, of course, am not the only person that does shadow work. There's lots of people out there, and you don't have to necessarily pay somebody to do shadow work, but it's a hell of a lot easier to start with somebody to help guide you and at least get you started. Because it can be overwhelming or difficult to start this process on your own. Especially if you don't have the tools and skills with how to regulate yourself as you're going through the process and uncovering things or remembering things, or you're needing more help because it might even not be from this life. It could be from past life or your ancestors or generations before you, where you feel like you don't know what the fuck it is. There's no living memory that you know of relating to this feeling. So I would seek help to help you identify, start to work on it. That's one of the services that I do. I will be eventually, I just got my new GoPro, so I'll be doing streaming more videos, but within my 2023 resolution, I don't usually like to do those, but more like intention. My intentions for this year is to be more public and do more workshops and classes. So you can follow my TikTok, Mystic Journey ATX, and my Instagram. I will be promoting workshops on shadow work and classes that I will be doing throughout the year. So if that's something you would like to just start, looking forward to, please keep an eye out for that. You can also reach out to me for a session through my email, which is listed on my Instagram. And I will include that information in the description below as well. And yeah, I do a lot of shadow work guided meditations where we meet with specific shadows depending on what you are currently experiencing and the emotions connected to it. We figure out what it is they're experiencing, what they're feeling, what they're needing from you, and then we form an agreement with them where I guide you through the questions and the whole narrative, correspondence back and forth, to help you come up with the plan, a method, a strategy with how to work through this shadow, providing them with what they need so they can heal, so that you're not constantly met with this feeling over and over and over again. It starts to dwindle away because it becomes healed. You become healed, right? That's the goal. And then we work through, obviously, skills, tools, and how to ground yourself, how to provide support and love for yourself, and any of the accompanying, that's a difficult word for me today, symptoms that are included with that. It might be looping, anxiety, insomnia, depression, anger. We're going to look at the root of all of those things and come up with exercises and things for you to do, as I am a trained and experienced psychotherapist, no longer a psychotherapist, but I dropped that so I could become a coach and work with people all over the world, which is really exciting. But I have all the experience there. So utilizing those skills to help you really feel grounded and confident in this self-healing journey. And you can also be looking at other people on social media. There's so much information out there, hashtags of shadow work, right? You can buy shadow work journals that give you question prompts of things that you can, look at, and help you kind of narrow the focus down to, one experience or symptom or emotion, and finding the root to that. And some, I think they're wonderful. I think that is a great place to start. I have heard a lot of feedback from or about the shadow work journals that they don't really go deep enough, and they don't ask enough important questions. I don't know if important's the right word, but yeah, it just didn't go deep enough. And they don't give you the skills with what you might find, right? Some of us might have some buried trauma that we forgot about, that can be really intense to work through. And in that case, I would suggest to find a professional to help you work through that. But shadow work journals, you can also do guided shadow meditations that just focus on your healing, right? Going into therapy, and you can bring up shadows. You can look for someone who does parts work, which is internal family systems, is the type of therapy that approach that uses parts work, or someone that utilizes Carl Jung's therapeutic approach specifically to help you work through that. And then there's a lot of spiritual coaches out there that do shadow work. So you can utilize any of those things. You can do automatic writing like I disclosed earlier, and just your average journaling. Really taking that time, right? So many of us have moved into this digital place and space where we don't write things down anymore. And, goddess bless the trees and paper. We want to be more sustainable, yes. You can go out there and find a sustainably resourced journal, if you would like, from recycled goods, that you can write on if that's really important to you, which it should be, and write things down. We are so disconnected from ourselves, and going deeper and looking internally and introspectively, because we're all external now. Everything's on a device. Everything is about competition or comparisons or the most likes. It's all of this stuff, right? Even if you use your social media as a diary, you're not asking yourself, more than likely, these really important, intrusive thoughts that you're divulging to the world. I mean, you might be, but probably not the kind of stuff that we're talking about in the spaces that we're talking about. And so just the act of writing it down, a diary to yourself every day, is going to show you a lot, right? And learning to ask yourself questions, I think, is a big part of helping you open the door to shadow work. Questions that we don't normally ask ourselves, like, how am I feeling today? Oh, I'm feeling, like crap, or I feel great today. Yesterday was really hard though. Why was yesterday hard? Right? Yesterday was hard for me because someone else got this promotion and I didn't, and that was really disappointing. I work really hard and I feel like I never get noticed. When did I start to feel this way? When did I first start to feel like I wasn't noticed for my hard work or for what I do, right? Asking yourself questions that go deeper and deeper and deeper. That's what shadow work is, right? I do a meditation that like grants us access to the real thing to like get there. But if you don't do that, it's a journey, right? And it's something that you have to stay connected to. You have to be consistent. It's a consistent practice. Even with my meditation, you still have to agree to and uphold the agreement that you set with your shadows. Otherwise, you're going to be right back to square one. And just meeting with your shadows doesn't mean that you're healed. And because you say affirmations one time, you're not going to heal yourself. It's a consistent practice of showing up, showing yourself that self-love to heal. And so it's the same thing. It's honoring and loving yourself to show up, asking yourself these questions, wanting, desiring to ask yourself and understand why you feel certain ways about things, where it comes from. Why is that so upsetting to me? When did this start to be so upsetting to me? Can I remember a time? What would make me feel better? What did I need to hear in that moment instead of that? How can I give that to myself? How am I not giving that to myself currently? What is my self-talk like? What do I say to myself on a daily basis? When I experience disappointment, what narrative comes up? What do I start saying to myself? You're a failure, you fucking suck, you're a loser, nobody cares about you. Yeah, that's gonna fucking make you feel great. Right? And we don't realize the impact of the words that we say to ourselves, that the shadows are saying to you, because that's what they've been programmed to think and know and feel. So they're saying all these things to you on a subconscious level, and we don't realize the effect and toll it takes on our emotions, on our mood, on our mental wellness, on our health, on our relationships, how we function in our daily life. And when we start to wake up and see, oh, when I start to adjust my self-talk, even when I'm experiencing these setbacks or disappointments or roadblocks or my shadows, and I speak to myself more lovingly, supportive and kind, empathetic, understanding, compassionate, that intense feeling is not as intense. And then it starts turning into, wow, that didn't really rock me as much. Like, I handled that really well. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty excited. I feel happy. I feel motivated. I feel like I'm worthy. I feel like I can actually say that I love and appreciate myself, maybe for the first time, right? It's something that has to be, it's building blocks up to what we really, really want. And everybody really wants to love themselves and feel happy and proud of themselves, grateful to themselves, confident in themselves, fulfilled. We all are searching for that feeling, but we don't actually do the things that would provide that. We externally do it by, oh, I just need this outfit. I need to lose 20 pounds. I need these friends. I need to look this way. I need this job. I need this much money. I need this house. I need this car. I need these drugs. I need to go to that festival. I need this experience. I need. But none of that is true. And the reason why we still don't feel that happiness, that love, all of these things, it's because we're not doing the internal work. We're not saying and changing the way that we approach ourselves and communicate with ourselves. We are a reflection of our outer world. How we treat other people or think about how we communicate with other people, we're doing that to ourselves, right? We might also project our trauma, our shadows onto people by over caring for people or overdoing for people instead of ourselves. And then we're like, why do I feel this way? Why am I tired all the time? Why am I depressed? Why am I drained all the time? Why do I feel like I never have enough time? Well, because you fucking don't, because all of your time is for other people. Right? And there's a difference from filling your own cup up first, making you a priority, and then when you have space, when you have time, when you have energy, then you give it to other people, and then it's so much more rewarding. But it's setting boundaries, which you never experienced before, because boundaries equals self-respect and self-worth, right? That's all shadows. Trauma. So I have divulged a lot to you guys about shadows, what they are, how you can work through them. And there's also a lot of spiritual practices and things you can do, and getting connected with meditation, with, sound healings, with Reiki, with just this desire for higher healing, higher vibration. It will, no matter what, take you on this path of opening up your intuition to your higher self, to spirit, and it will ultimately guide you back to the path of shadow work. Encouraging you to want to heal yourself even more on a psychological level, on an emotional level. And we want to make sure that we don't spiritually bypass. And that's, sometimes it's talked about with spiritual healers and coaches and therapists that I appreciate. They talk about spiritual bypassing, and that's an important one, because we want to make sure that just because we're doing shadow work and we're figuring it out, we're not like, everything's fucking great if it's not. You're gonna, even if you do shadow work and you're healing yourself, I think it could be possible that someone's happy more days than not, or all days, but throughout the entire day being chipper and happy, that's real hard to do. I don't think it's fully possible. Or, that's possible, and then, it can be possible, but for the rest of your life, always, forever, you're love and light, everything is so wonderful and great, that's a fallacy. That is not real. People doing spiritual work, people doing shadow work, people healing themselves, it is not a all smiles, everything's positive, everything's happy and joyous, and I'm so great, and I'm gonna preach to you and do all this shit, it's not fucking real. So be mindful of that when you are following these people online that say everything's fucking love and light, and that you can do this or that and you'll become this fully happy, healed person all the time. It's not truth. They're selling you something. And I call my business Mystic Journey, and I see this as a mystic journey. I'm a mystic, and mystics usually tend to find me. I'm wearing a witch hat, for fuck's sake, you know. But you don't have to be a mystic to work with me, but it's a journey. And, you know, my clients say, like, you know, I've been really great, and then something happens, and they're like, oh, I went back in my old ways, or my shadows kicked on again, or like I'm feeling really shitty, or things got really hard again. I'm like, yeah, it's meant to. There's a lesson that still needs to be made, an area of growth and evolution, a place that still needs to be healed for you to go to that next step. But it's always going to be an up and down experience. It's never a straight in road that is just one note all the time. That's not the healing journey. That's not the life journey. It is, you are going to be met with things that are going to fucking rock your world. That is expected. But the goal is that you will have the skills and the tools to navigate it in the healthiest, most real, authentic, honest, loving way that you possibly can, with the mission to get back on the road of healing yourself, of getting to that better space where you're feeling good. But it's okay to fucking not be okay. It's okay to feel like fucking shit. It's okay to be angry, to be sad, disappointed. It's okay to feel everything. And that's what it's about, honoring all of it without allowing it to overtake your life to where you lose everything. It's about appreciating, honoring, but also grounding yourself in it so that you can come out of it and transform into an even more evolved being. To grow from these experiences and not let them weigh you down or break you and ruin you. That's what it's about. So, if you have liked what I have talked about here, and you guys have any questions, please feel free to comment, to share, subscribe, like. I would love your support. I value your support. And please, you know, follow my social media pages. My Twitter is still very new. I only have a few videos. That's one of my intentions for the year of 2023, is to grow that also. But I also have some pretty informative lives and videos on my Instagram, which I will put my page in the information below. I hope all of you have a beautiful Thursday evening, Friday morning, whatever time that you're watching this. Please look out for my next video. Not sure what it's going to be about yet, but keep an eye out. Subscribe so that you'll be notified and alerted. Love you guys.